So, Carnival Row. I'm gonna jump right back to like season one first and just go,
Sure.
what was it about this character that drew you in? Why this show? Why this character?
Do you know, it's a great question because when I first read it in season one, as you know, you don't get all the scripts at once. So I think I got the first two. I was I was concerned because on face value, he was a little one note. So I went to this wonderful acting coach who's great, who's great at her job, and and I said to her, listen, what do you think? And she said, there's nothing more boring than playing a racist, but there's nothing more interesting than finding out why he is what he is. And I ended up doing a lot of background work on Dombey, um, and working out from that what made him react the way he does to certain situations. And it's explored in much more detail, I think, in season two than it was in season one. Um, but I actually ended up adoring that character because as cynical as he is and as brutal as he is, um, I found a lot of humor in him. And also, I felt able to build up a reason as to why he's defending what he's defending, and why he's so passionate about it.
I was gonna ask that whether there was gonna be more depth to him in season two, especially with you being up to series regular.
Yeah, no, there is. What happened during COVID was there was a lot of downtime, as you can imagine. I think season two took the better part of 3 years to shoot, and it's still not out. Um, so what happened was Eric took over, Eric Olson, and he called me up and he said, "Look, we're going to be doing a lot of rewrites and stuff. Have you done any background on your character?" I said, "I got books on it." He said, "Well, don't send me everything because that's way too much, but send me anything you think is relevant. And if I think it's relevant, I'll put it in." And I sent him all, I'd done a whole family background on Dombey, his father, his parents, his wife, and I had kids. And I sent him all this, and he loved it, and he put it into the show. And I think it's vital for the show to see, um, really the sins of your father coming down to the children. The father being this, he's an old man in a wheelchair. He's a boozer. He's sitting there. You have all these horns decorating his bedroom wall of the Critch. And it's really quite brutal. And the conversation I have with him is of respect, but also there's a certain amount of fear Dombey has for his father. And then also a protection Dombey has for his son, because I think he doesn't want his son growing up the way he grew up. He notes that there's a time for a change, that society has changed as it does in real life. And he wants his son to be able to adapt to the change rather than being this, eventually he'll become an outsider in his own city. So I think season two really does get more into it.
I was saying I've seen the first two episodes so far, and you're still only just, popping in here and there. But
Yeah.
I love the interactions between you and Orlando Bloom's Philo, because you've both got this very different side, and now Philo's truth of he's part Fae, and I
Yeah.
just love those interactions between you.
But that was one of the most fun scenes. I don't know if the scene we did where there was the severed heads on the spikes, and
Yeah.
he's protecting the crime scene from contamination, and I come in and I contaminate it, and there's this whole standoff, and it was great fun working with Orlando Bloom because um, I felt we both had done a lot of work on our characters, and therefore there was a freedom to explore, and that whole scene was very much a chess game between him and I of who could push whose buttons and who was in the right and who was in the wrong. It was a lot of fun, those scenes. And then as you continue to watch the season, and obviously I can't give anything away, our relationship changes. there's an understanding, a sort of begrudging understanding between the two. They still don't like each other. They're never going to like each other. I mean, that's a given. But there becomes a sort of an affinity where they both understand where each other is coming from, and possibly the errors of their own ways.
So, just because you mentioned family, what was it like having Jared on,
Oh,
acting, having him there? But I'm really disappointed you two didn't have scenes together.
so were we. In season one, we would get the writer, Renee, and we'd say, come on, man, please, just give us one scene together. And he kept promising it. And as each episode went by where there was no scene together, he said, yeah, the next episode, the next episode. And finally, we weren't, and he was like, I can't justify you two characters being together. You're from two separate worlds. So I did get his point of view, but we were very disappointed. But they were shooting 2 episodes at the same time. So there was 2 crews in season 1, as in season 2. So I would often sneak onto his set, and he'd sneak onto mine, and we'd watch each other, and we had a really good time. I've got to say, Jared was a lot of fun on that. He really brought the cast together. Because eventually what happened was that cast became like family. We all knew each other really well. But we were in Prague for, better part of 5 years. But Jared was very, very much instigated us all going out for dinners and just getting to know each other outside of the characters.
Are you poking fun at being up to series regular while he's now off the show?
Oh, daily. I'm forever telling him. I'm forever telling him he's got to watch season 2 because now I am a season regular, and of course I can't say whether I die or not, but I always laugh, and he always says he dies in everything he does. He dies.
He's going to be another Sean Bean.
There you go. Yeah, I remember I met Sean Bean years ago. He's a lovely guy, really nice man.
He's not too far from my original neck of the woods. So.
Right.
So you mentioned, there was a lot of downtime because of COVID. Was there at any point where you sat there going, this is not going to come out now? Because, I mean, Netflix was, the unrenewing things. Netflix was doing it. ABC did it.
There was a definite moment, actually, where we felt it may not go forward because, arguably it might have been getting too expensive for its own good. The world wasn't changing. There seemed to be no time and even when we shot the latter part of season 2, getting in and out of Prague was a nightmare. I mean, the amount of paperwork, there were books of paperwork, which, by the way, no one ever looked at, but you still had to keep filling out all these forms. And you'd get back, and Prague was a ghost city. There was nobody there. No tourists were allowed, which actually was wonderful because you got to see Prague empty. But yeah, there was a time when, because, I had sort of Zoom chats with a lot of the actors, and we were convinced it wasn't going to happen. And then Eric would talk to you, and then you'd be convinced it was going to happen. And then he wouldn't talk to you for a couple of weeks, and you were convinced it wasn't going to happen. COVID, I think, drove many people mad, and us the same. But we were delighted when it kicked off again, because I felt once it started going and the train was moving, there was a real definitive feeling about it. Like, we were going to shoot this. It was beautifully written. It was a very powerful season, and with all the delays, maybe it was all for the best, because it took its time in the rewrites and the characters were really fully developed.
I love that Cara kept giving us mini updates on Instagram of going, we're filming again. We've wrapped filming, and it's like, okay.
Yeah, I'm probably one of the few actors who's not on Instagram. I don't know why. Yeah, she was a delight to work with, Cara. She you know, she really, I mean, I never saw her depressed. She always was fun, lively, enthusiastic. She was a great helmswoman for the show. She really kept people together.
And say what you need as a female lead on the series.
You want someone, I guess male or female, but female's better insofar as, you know, she really cajoled the crowds together. And, you know, because it could easily have been sort of boys against girls or girls against boys, because the characters were so, you know, was so sort of partisan. Everyone had their own point of view, and everyone in the show dislikes everyone. No one really gets on in the show. So it could have bled that way into real life, but it didn't. And I feel Cara and Orlando had a lot to do with that.
So is there anything in season 2 that you can tease that you're really looking forward to the viewers actually getting to see play out?
You know, I can tease without saying, but there are some magnificent, I mean, there are some magnificent scenes in season 2. I can tell you the monster far surpasses season 1. I mean, it's an amazing character. When the audience eventually get to see this creature, it is a moment of imagination genius. Whoever came up with it, I have no idea. But it really is, it's seductive, it's powerful, it's grotesque. It really is amazing. And a lot, whereas season 1 I felt was very much almost a family drama. It was about Orlando's family, who his father was, who was he really, what was his background. It was a more intimate story set in a huge fantasy world. Season 2 is epic. It's really, you know, it's really about possibly the destruction of civilization. You know, it's about oppression. It's about how the wealthy, the powerful in the world look upon other people as irrelevant. It's a very strong message that season 2 sends. And I think there are scenes in it that are quite graphic. I mean, there are a few fight scenes in it. When I read it on paper, I was literally like, well, they cannot possibly. They're going to have to tone this down because there's no way can they do it. And they pull it off.
It's Amazon for you. They've like upped the bar on everything.
That's Amazon for you.
So just finally, is there sorry, I'll try to get the words out. Are there any projects that you have coming up that you're able to talk about?
Well, you know, I did a wonderful smaller movie last year that actually was with Jared again, and our brother Damien wrote and directed it, called Brave the Dark. That's an amazing story set in Pennsylvania that I've seen, and I think it's fantastic. And that comes out this year. And then we did a documentary on my father that went to the Venice Film Festival, which took a lot of work last year. We all produced it and was in it, and sort of a reflection on our dad. And that was emotionally very draining, but very worthwhile. So that comes out this year, and I really hope people get to see that. And then I got to say, so far this year, things are looking really up. They're looking really fortuitous.
So good. Now, the world is starting to open up, which means more projects.
Yeah, which means it'll probably close down again.
No, don't.
I don't know. I'm really working on being positive this year.
Yeah,